Go, not when everything feels ready, not when fear disappears, not when you finally feel strong enough. Go now, because the call was never about your perfection. It was always about obedience. The risen Christ stood before them, not as a distant memory, not as a story to be told, but as living, breathing truth. The wounds were still visible. The authority was unmistakable. Death had been conquered, and now a new chapter was being written, not with ink, but with lives. And he spoke, not with anger, not with pressure, but with purpose. Go, therefore, not stay, not wait, not hide. Go into the world that is broken. Go into the places that are uncertain. Go into hearts that are weary, confused, and searching. This command was not given only to the brave. It was given to the faithful, to fishermen who had doubted, to followers who had run, to men and women who had been afraid only days before. And yet they were chosen, because God does not wait for perfection. He moves through surrender. Go, therefore, and make disciples, not admirers, not fans, not observers. Disciples, people who would not only hear the words but live them, who would not only believe but follow, who would not only receive but carry the message forward. This was not about building an audience, it was about awakening hearts, teaching them not just what to say, but how to walk, not just what to believe, but how to become. Baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, not as a ritual alone, but as a declaration of new life, a crossing from death to life, from old to new, from fear to faith, a moment where the past is not erased, but redeemed. This was not a small mission. It was not a gentle suggestion. It was a divine transfer of responsibility. He was entrusting the future of the message into human hands, fragile hands, trembling hands, uncertain hands, and still he trusted them. Because the power was never in their ability, it was in his authority. They were not sent alone. They were sent covered, sent guided, sent upheld. And this call did not end with them. It moved through centuries, through languages, through generations, until it reached you. Go. Not necessarily across oceans, but into conversations, into moments, into lives. Go into your family. Go into your work. Go into the spaces where people are silently asking if hope is real. Make disciples, not with arguments, not with force, but with love, truth, patience, and light. Because disciples are not made by pressure, they are formed by presence. Teach them, not as someone above them, but as someone walking beside them. Show them how forgiveness works. Show them what grace looks like. Show them what it means to rise after falling. Let your life become the message, because people may question words, but they notice lives. And remember, this was not a call to success. It was a call to faithfulness. You are not responsible for results. You are responsible for obedience. Not everyone will listen. Not everyone will understand. Not everyone will stay. And that is not failure. That is humanity. Your task is not to save. Your task is to point to hope, to point to mercy, to point to a love that reached you when you were lost. Go, even when you feel small, even when your voice shakes, even when you think you are not enough, because the one who sent you is the one who walks with you. And that changes everything.